Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Green Room.
Yeah, for sure. So Gary Stein was going to be our guest today, and everybody knows Gary in Florida. So, we're going to have him back. We are going to talk some consumption lounges because listen, what's going to happen as we go forward with legal adult use, medicinal cannabis, you're going to have a place to utilize your cannabis. And just coming back from Vegas, of course, can't use it in the hotel room, can't use it in the rental car, this, that, whatever. Wow. So the myriad of laws continue to get in the way.
And it's going to be a heavy law here in Florida when it happens.
It's going to be interesting. So a lot to discuss, but there's so much to discuss. There's otherwise, so in general, it's funny. So Gary was going to join us. He had an emergency this morning, couldn't do it, but Ruth and I always have things to talk about. So Venice went viral. Venice went viral. Our little town of Venice. Hang on. And this is literally a mile down the road from us or so, right down on Venice Avenue.
Something to be proud of.
So Florida's a mess, everybody, an absolute mess.
Understatement of the year.
From so many angles, and I just want to give a huge shout out to our healthcare workers and our paramedics and our social workers in the hospital and
even the people who are cleaning the hospital. Listen, everybody, the maintenance people, they're surrounded by COVID now all the time too. Everybody.
So I talked to my patients all day, and we were talking yesterday, and of course he's a retired respiratory therapist. We got to remember them, our x-ray techs, all of our food workers, anybody that's in a hospital environment these days.
Anybody.
And listen, I'm going to step out again, from my medical cannabis doctor hat and put on my emergency medicine doctor hat and my public health doctor hat. Please, everybody, get vaccinated. Just it's that simple. And at this particular point in time, I saw something about even the next variant. And I think it's the Mu or the Lambda or something. I don't know. But we need to get a handle on this virus. What the science, what doctors are so frustrated about, Ruta, right now, and I'm going to just lay it all out on the line. Doctors go to med school. They study. They read. They learn how to read in a discriminating scientific nature. And there's hours spent and in residency and it's hard to become a doctor. It is.
It is. And there's a reason why after you have so much schooling, it's so much schooling.
And doctors are so frustrated with people now picking and choosing when they want them, when they need them, what they're going to believe. And believe me, I'm speak sorry, for the doctors.
I know, but Dr. Google is not a doctor. And these people who think they can go online, Google something, and all of a sudden they have an MD next to their name, I think not.
And it's frustrating, doctors, because doctors inherently want to do good, want to do right, want to heal, right? And knowing, and listen, I read an article out of Tallahassee, and it was unbelievably well written by a nurse. And once again, our frontline nurses, they're feeling it every day. Patients that are in the ICU that are on high flow oxygen right now, they have a name for them, Ruta, and it's the talking dead, not the walking dead, the talking dead, because when you're in the ICU and you're in a high flow oxygen mask and your pulse ox is still only in the 80s and you're able to communicate and talk, but have to pause, work. These healthcare workers see it every day now. 4 to 5 of these patients are going to be intubated tomorrow, talking today, not tomorrow. And 60% or so of them aren't getting off of that machine. I don't care if it's 5 days a family makes a decision, 4 months, families make a decision.
Now they're going on months. And then the plug gets pulled. And it's like, every day at Sarasota Memorial, you hear somebody passing away from COVID, somebody passing. And it's like, what does it take? Like, what?
I don't know. I don't know. I just don't.
And these people have friends who are in there, and it's like, they still are fighting this. And it's like, how that mindset has become so ridiculous. It's never, the new strain, we actually found out it's a C12 is a new COVID strain, but there you go. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me.
I guess what stuns me is that the ability of everybody to accept the science of this
phone.
The science and the beauty of this supercomputer that literally you couldn't even, a room is now packed in, rooms are packed into this. It's in your pocket. What a miracle. Okay. But there's a miracle in science too that allowed us to develop this vaccine with 20 years of back work, everybody. It didn't come about in a day.
Exactly. People are thinking it's this. It's
So
not.
except this, or except a monoclonal antibody infusion, really?
That's what's really funny. And I had a friend, and it's crazy. She was like against the vaccine, and she's an intelligent woman. And then all of a sudden she got sick with her family, and they're like, oh my God, we're so scared we have COVID. Thank God they tested negative. But at one point she actually asked me, should I take that whatever it is that, and I'm like, are you joking? I'm like, seriously, I'm like, are you joking?
Now listen, hopefully that's safe and effective too.
Okay, maybe it is, but you have a vaccine already out there with proven statistics that even, yes, people are getting sick with the vaccine. They are. We have proof in our own practice. We have had that. But the problem is, even when that's not a problem, but the fact is when they even get sick with COVID, having the vaccine, their symptoms are so mild. They're not getting intubated. They're not going to the hospital.
It's a nuisance.
It is. And yesterday, and this is the other thing, there's a strain being put on necessarily for the ICU. This is preventable. People don't have to go there if they get the vaccine. And yesterday, a physician friend of mine posted an article about how physicians are feeling right now because he's frustrated. And in that whole summary of what this physician's frustration was, people are trusting ridiculousness over this vaccine, and then what happens is people are dying who need an ICU unit other than COVID, and there's no beds available.
Right, that was the one tragic case that I saw as well. A Texas veteran who had a pancreatitis from gallstone pancreatitis. You can get very sick, the electrolytes get all, everything, and they didn't have an ICU bed for him. Not just in Texas, but in every surrounding state. And everybody, listen, let's give a shout out also. And listen, I'm not overly prayerful, but say one if you do for those people in Louisiana and now in New York and Lake Tahoe. If anybody's ever been to Tahoe, know what a beautiful area. I know Adam's sitting behind I'm sure you've been there many times from when you were out in Cali, but that's such a gorgeous area with unbelievable, beautiful homes built on those mountains. And what I was hearing this morning is that there's fires now in areas that have never had fires before because of the dry foliage. And I guess the entire West has been in a drought. So what I guess it's like Labor Day is Monday or something, right?
Don't you think it's probably the U.S. government that's like shooting down laser beams?
No, seriously. So I guess what Monday is Labor Day, and summer's over. And of course, here in Florida, everybody, you guys know me, I'm Ohioan. So listen, Buckeyes open tonight. That's what means it's fall for me. So go Ohio State. I guess they're playing Minnesota and they'll roll over them, on a Thursday night, which is cool. But anyway, so we're getting, I guess, done with summer, of course, which is really strange. So kids going back to school. And once again, getting back to this.
Let's bring up that. And actually, the only other thing is, before we get off on that, we're talking about vaccines and theories of what do you think about the equine with Joe
ivermectin,
who's done that? And I guess there's like this huge movement of now what is it that people are taking like a thing
ivermectin and listen, there are uses for it in medicine for scabies, believe it or not, and other such things, but it's not something that you want to take.
I don't think I want to take
but I guess the frustration, and Ruta, once again, I shared that letter written by the doctor because it speaks so much to what I hear from my doctor friends that are still doing it. I actually answer back to one of my friends, well, the beauty of what I do, and listen, I can't believe that I somehow got out of emergency medicine when I did back in 2015 because of my own health, issues and missed this, listen, I put on a gown maybe once every month, once every couple months to do an LP, or somebody's got this or that, but these healthcare workers put gowns on the moment they hit the ER floor these days. They got to wear it all day. And then when you got a doff, which means you take it off, and then you don and you put it back on. You got to do that when you eat, when you go to a cafeteria. When
I had COVID, I watched the nurses, like soon as they left the room, they had to take everything off.
Doff.
You have doff, and then they had to put it right back on. Even if and I felt bad, I needed a glass of water, and they had to go do
know.
this whole process just to give me a glass of
So
water. It
I
was
can't imagine,
crazy.
quite frankly, the depression that's hanging now
Oh, God.
within the halls of medicine, right?
Yes.
And it's made worse by this being preventable.
And it's made worse
right?
by people going around saying, don't wear a mask.
Well,
and then now we have a chiropractor here in Venice who's made national news that for some reason he is giving exemptions for people not to wear masks. First of all, if that person needed to get intubated, that chiropractor couldn't even treat them. So let's go there, number one. So how is this man or this woman qualified to actually start telling people not to wear masks?
Listen, he's calling a mask an airway obstruction.
Yeah, an airway
and, you know, like I
obstruction.
said, and I've said this in many green rooms before, the neurosurgeon wears his mask for 6 or 7 hours during his neurosurgery.
And it's
so prepare your kids early. And listen, you know, it's hard. It's hard because in the alternative healthcare world. So what I was going to say is that I answered one of my friends back is that fortunately in the world of cannabis medicine now, my patients still value my expertise and my education to them.
You're an MD. It's like whether you're a DO or an MD, you still have those qualifications behind you.
And take my advice in general,
of course.
right? Which is great. And I do talk vaccination in my clinic now, whereas a couple months ago I didn't, because I do respect my patients' alternative healthcare decisions. But it fascinates me that there's so many people, and I'm going to get somebody mad out there right now, but I don't care. There's so many people out there that are willing to put a Delta 8 product into their body, okay, or a Delta 10 vape, or things that we saw at last week's CBD conference, which is another entire green room.
That is another green room.
Another entire green room, because these are untested products. You don't know what other solvents are in there. And even the effects of Delta 8 and Delta 10 haven't been studied necessarily. But my point is people are so willing to do that.
They do that.
And not take a vaccine. And it's just the logic doesn't make sense to me.
People eat at McDonald's every day and you don't even know what goes into McDonald's burgers.
I don't know. So I continue to wish everybody the best of health. I do. And we don't want anybody to get sick with COVID.
No, we don't. But, you know, and again, I'm sorry, and I know I offend people with this too, but please, like, you know, if you're so anti-vaccine, anti-mask, and then you end up in the hospital, I've seen it on Facebook now daily on my Facebook feeds. Pray for me, pray for them, pray for them. They have COVID. They didn't get vaccinated. They didn't wear a mask. And I know some of them who actually, I personally know some people who didn't wear a mask and didn't get the vaccine, and they were in the ER and they were intubated and in the ICU. And I'm like, and then on their posts, and I'm like, I don't even respond to them because I don't think it, I
don't know what else to say anymore.
What do you say? You knew people are telling you, and you still ignored the science. You ignored the doctors. Then this is what is so ironic, and it pisses me off. They go through all of this. Oh no, the doctors don't know, the scientists don't know. And then as soon as their health fails and they get COVID and they can't breathe, they run to the doctor. Help me, save me, pray for me, help me, give me something. Really?
And
really?
the doctors respond. And the doctors and the nurses are there.
They are.
And they'll continue to be there. But I say this to you, everybody, I worry about post-COVID depression, anxiety, nurses and doctors and other healthcare workers leaving traditional medicine. Well, they are already.
They're quitting. I mean, we have a nursing shortage, massive. I mean, all across the United States, nurses can't take it anymore.
So I pray people change their mind, quite frankly. You know, it's okay to change your mind.
It is. Nobody's going to judge you.
No one's going to judge you for changing your mind.
No, and this isn't a political stance. It is so ridiculous that the polarization of this country under Trump goes into medicine and into healthcare. It's
what
ridiculous.
Kind of tragedy is it going to take to bring the country back together?
It's going to take something like unprecedented, I think, like where somebody huge is going to either pass away from COVID. Something's.
I mean, even with the withdrawal of the from Afghanistan, let's face it. Listen, well, it is. Listen to me. If there's 100 or 200 Americans there, Patty and I were talking about this. to me, they've got a reason to still be there. They're married to an Afghani.
There's
They have
something, yeah,
significant
of
business
There's
interests,
business
and
interests. They're
they're
still
believe me.
contractors, and the contractors are there.
If you're there, you're there for a reason. I
You
firmly
are.
believe that if you wanted to get out over the last 4 to 5
They
months,
would have gone
what
out.
concerns me is that the Afghanis left behind seem to have been left behind because of a bureaucratic system that couldn't approve the visas for a lot of these, people that helped us in the war over a 10-year or whatever period of time. You know a lot more about this, Ruta.
There are
Trillions more than I do.
No, there are
But I think we removed 130 whatever some thousand people from the country.
If you think about the time frame and the logistics behind it, whether you're flying C-17s or C-130s full of like packed, where you're supposed to have only like 100 people and they were packing in them by hundreds. The logistics of just moving that many numbers out, it's a huge in non-military fashion, meaning they weren't actually our soldiers necessarily. There were civilians, and so in that
so
case,
struck by the picture of the female soldier carrying the baby, saying she loved her job, and of course she lost it is serving the country and serving humanity. And I mourn for those 13, as we all do.
We all do.
But to think that you could have carried that type of mission out without any loss.
No. And listen, if you
I just look at it as another divisive type of thing right now. We should all be cheering what we've been able to accomplish.
Listen, we've gone through how many presidencies under being in Afghanistan. I mean, this is ridiculous. It was another Vietnam. It was just, you cannot go into a territory that is tribal and expect these people to change what has been ingrained in them for thousands of years. They're nomadic, they're tribal. Yep. They will not take arms against their fellow brothers. They will not. Right. And I think our government expected a lot more from them as far as like, okay, well now take up arms. They will not do that.
But it's going to be interesting to see them against ISIS-K and this
and
that.
ISIS-K again, like, I mean,
tribal.
They're tribal. And it's like, at the end of the day, they're Muslims. Muslims won't take arms against a fellow Muslim brother. They just won't. They're going to drop arms. And they already have. I mean, they do. They will drop arms.
So God forbid, Ruta, what would you think if, so talk about what could unite the country again. I mean, another 9/11. I mean, we're coming up on the anniversary. Seriously.
No,
but if you think back to those times and remember that was a time of a country united, and
but it takes a tragedy.
It does, and we don't want that.
But the thing is, you're seeing tragedy play out
every day.
You do, and you're seeing COVID is a tragedy in our country. The numbers of deaths far exceed 9/11.
I guess the one tweet I saw, or the one tweet feed that I really was bugged by, was the right. How do I put this right? The conservative radio host who lost his life, who was very much anti-vax and anti-mask, and people tweeting that at least he died standing up for his liberties and his choices and this and that. I don't know if you happen to see that, but he was fairly well known, not a national, but a pretty big regional, yeah, for sure, right wing, but it was horrible. It was horrible. No, you stand up for the science and the beauty of the country and the scientists and this and that. So I'm frustrated by that.
It's
absolutely
frustrating.
And once again, we don't want anybody that we know to personally suffer.
But the thing is, even with the masking, and again, the masking, they're like, oh, you're infringing on my rights. Well, you're infringing on my rights by not wearing it, and you're infringing on my family's rights, and you're infringing on the rights of the physicians and the nurses. I mean, the selfishness is beyond belief. It's beyond comprehension how our society has become. And I think it's the fault of that stupid cell phone. I hate to say it.
In a lot of ways it is.
It is. People have become isolated. They've become
I read an article about that. So we used to have front porches where you would sit in the evening and you would see people walking by and this and that. Now
neighbors.
We've moved to the back, to the deck, or
your room, and you don't even have social interaction. And it's crazy because I was talking at a dinner party over the weekend, and we were talking about, so just having socialness at a dinner table, to bring up a topic and have these great discussions. and knowing your neighbor, and people don't even know their neighbors. I'm like, how do you not know your neighbor? I mean, thankfully, I mean, I know all my neighbors and we're friendly. We actually meet on the street and we talk. And it's like, you know, your neighbors, you have keys to your neighbor's house because they're your neighbor. And
we've lost all that.
Yeah, people just don't have
And what a great segue, Ruta, into the discussion of the consumption lounge.
Yes,
because
that's a social area.
It is. It's a social area. And let's just talk Florida right now. So everybody knows, of course, or should. In Florida, there's a no puff, puff, pass, quote unquote, rule. Patients can only use their own medicine and not share their medicine with anybody else, right? In other states, of course, legal adult use states, you know, different laws, different rules. So in some areas, consumption lounges are starting to pop up because Las Vegas, for example, legal adult use state. You can walk into a dispensary, anybody can over the age of 18, you can buy cannabis products. But there's really, unless you live there, no place to use them. Can't smoke in your rental car, typical hotel rooms everywhere, no smoking, can't smoke on the street, right? So where do people gather, right, to use their products? Well, I tell you where they gather. The top floor of the parking decks, believe it or not, okay, because they're open air, and right, so people park their rental cars, they get out. So a good tip for anybody, if you're in Vegas and you want cannabis, you don't want to buy it, and you don't care about other people's germs, I guess, but go up to the top of the top. I know.
Especially now with COVID.
Yeah,
God,
especially now with COVID. I know that's terrible. But the point is, like a consumption lounge, though, would be important to make sure that safely people have access to able to, you know, use it safely, not sharing products, this, that, whatever. In Florida, would probably have to be some type of club environment to start where you would join and keep a locker.
There's
with your
going to have
own
to be
medicines.
something where there's a lot of isolation.
I think it's 4 years off, you know, whatever
and
here in Florida.
And
right.
Because other people don't want to necessarily inhale it and be in the same area. So
but other cities, I could think like Ann Arbor, I think Michigan would probably be a great place, you know. I mean, Michigan's legal adult use and Ann Arbor's always been, you know,
honestly, I really think it's going to be the hookah lounges. I think the hookah lounges.
See, you brought that up to me in the discussion that we had. I really
think a natural phase of entrance is going to be the hookah lounges. Because the hookah, you're already in that environment. They already have the ventilation systems. They're already smoking whatever in the hookah lounges. We know it's not supposed to be marijuana, but we kind of know things happen.
That's interesting.
Lounges, so,
even in Sarasota, as we speak, there's hookah lounges. Because
oh my God, yeah.
Is that right? Sure.
Like actually, I have friends that own all five.
Interesting. Sure.
There's 5 hookah lounges, and you know they try to monitor what people bring in to smoke, and they sell, you know, the things like, you know, the different tobaccos that go into the hookah.
Do they sell hemp in the hookah lounges? Interesting.
Yep, they have hemp. Yep. So most of them now, what the models that most of the hookah lounges are doing is they actually have a hookah lounge, and right next door is the smoke shop. So the people can go next door, buy their product, and then, you know, just go into the hookah lounge and use it. But the hookah lounges, like I said, they already have the ventilation systems that are mandatory and things like that. So I think they're probably going to follow suit. And it makes like a natural transition from hookah lounge into medical, or not medical, but cannabis lounges. Eventually,
because one of the interesting things, if you look at the history of cannabis and tobacco and caffeine and things of that nature, they were actually banned by the kings, you know, in certain societies and all that, because it caused people to gather and talk and bond together many times against the king. See, well, you know, so maybe it's a means of bringing people back together. We know that both Republicans and Democrats are cannabis users, so we say let's keep it.
That's
green.
why we're the green room.
That's why we're the green room.
We're the green room. Everybody, yeah.
You know, it's funny. Adam says, "Oh, you don't have Gary. What are you guys going to talk about?" And I said, "Adam, you don't know. We can ramble on for about 2 hours."
Exactly.
No, listen, and here's another thing. So Carlos Guillermo Smith is suing the state to demanding the release of COVID data. I'm wondering about all these lawsuits, okay? And listen, can a school board, how could you not pay teachers and school board people and this and that? Because you're not following some dictatorial thing from the top.
I know.
And it's supposed to be about home rule and local rule. I don't get it.
And they're fighting like Sarasota. Thank God for the school board of Sarasota.
Physical, there's people have come to blows in Florida.
Oh, they have. And you should see the nasty comments.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
Who is trying to protect your children. Their bottom line, it's not a political stance. They are trying to protect children.
And nobody really knows the answers. Let's face it, but let's make the decision towards safety.
Yeah.
The decision towards safety is not that kids have obstruction of their airway from
Airways.
wearing a simple mask.
No. And honestly, most children,
It's
listen, most
frustrating.
kids will do whatever you tell them to do anyway. It's the parents who are convincing their children
Well,
of something.
that's-
Because come on, your mom and dad, growing up in Boston, they put a hat and gloves on you when it's cold outside and send you out. How come over there in Boston you can wear a scarf around your face and then you go to the schoolroom? I mean, it's natural. You're not fighting it. You don't have obstruction of airways.
Right.
Obstruction of airways, you know, like you remember those old days in Halloween when you wear those little masks, those plastic masks that you couldn't breathe on? And we still love them because you go trick-or-treating in them for 4 hours and you're sweating underneath and you really can't breathe under those. So, you know, it's silliness. It's absolute silliness that these masks.
Do you think
are
that
causing harm.
former President Trump himself could go a long way towards solving this? I mean, I know that's an insane thought.
No,
and
because
it's not going to happen.
I don't.
But is it
it'll-
past that at this point already? Even?
No, because I think to be honest, I think it's drawn across political lines, unfortunately. And I think some of these far right conservatives, he is still their mouthpiece, and whatever he says still goes for them. He had that rally, and I mean, Sarasota came out by the thousands to listen to him. If he actually really cared about the people who follow him, he should come out and say, you know what, mask up your children, protect your kids, you mask up, go get your vaccine. Let's change as a society. Let's get herd immunity. Let's get rid of this virus because it's just going to keep mutating with the people that are not vaccinated.
And the suffering in Louisiana and the South that was affected. Hang on, people, no heat, excuse me, no power, no air conditioning.
Oh my God.
Heat and COVID. Are you kidding me? With a 30-some% vaccinated population, this has got the potential to be an absolute disaster. And I'm keeping every finger and toe crossed over it, but I can't imagine how it can't happen. You see people waiting in lines for supplies and water and all that. And you know that most of them aren't vaxxed.
No, and their hospitals were already
tapped out
in full. And so now with this, I find it like a little, like whatever you call it, intubation center or something, where everything's just gonna fizzle and fester. And
so here's the good news for me. Here's the good news for me. I get to go out here and take care of my cannabis patients today. Great purpose towards positivity, helping people. Okay. And I tell everybody, I got like the easiest job, okay, in the cannabis space right now. People come to me with needs of education, safety, right? Getting legal. We know all that. Okay. And we cherish it and we give back with education. We hope everybody does the same. And I ask all of you today watching, okay, go out and do something positive for people. Seriously, yes, whether it's your job, but for whether it's your job or not, right? But give today, give today,
and think of your fellow neighbor. And
we need that today. There's so much going on outside, and I know, and Ruta knows. A couple, 3-4 weeks ago, you know, she had to give me, as she does every once in a while, a good kick in the butt and say, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Because I think my focus was a little bit more outside than inside. Yeah, and I think if you keep your focus inside, those things that you can control.
Yes, and those are great outcomes because those affect every life that comes in here. And you
so everybody try to do that today, sometime, you know, in your life, you know.
Yeah. And next week, we should be having
absolutely
state representative
James Buchanan
on. He's out of town this week, but next week he should be joining us. So
we're excited about it because our goal always is to try and get his views of where he sees cannabis going here in Florida,
and to hear ours,
and to hear ours back, the exchange as we go. That's what we need to do.
And it's a green room. It's not political, so it's a friendly environment, and we're gonna have a great discussion. I can't wait to have James in. So that'll be excellent. So everyone, take care, mask up, vaccine,
stay safe. Have a great Labor Day weekend, holiday, and we'll see you on the other side.
Next week.